Welcome back to the Storm Cellar. Always a pleasure to have guests on the show. Today we have a great one. I think she's been a listener to the show since early-ish on. I mean, we're only not even a year into this, Ray, but she's somebody that we connected with on Twitter early on, much like Haley. We found out last week that we were Haley's very first follow, which is kind of so. So Ray, good morning to you, and then I will give you the honor of introducing our guest today.
Indeed, good morning. And, I got to say, waking up in mornings after hurricane victories are always great. But when
Good feeling.
they're even better when we get to jump in and talk about it here in the Storm Cellar. And even better than that is when we have guests like Gina. Gina, thank you so much for joining us. One of the and I'm gonna see Tandrich. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Yay!
It
Blind
took me
pigs
so
find a
long.
truffle every now and again.
I thought her username was like Gina and Rich, and I missed the T part. So I thought her husband's name was Rich. And then one day I'm like, oh, there's a T. Oh, her last name is Tandrich. I'm not very good at English.
Gina,
Welcome, Gina.
Gina, thank you so much for joining us. And you know what we're like here in the Storm Cellar. We want to know what makes Caniacs and jerks like tick, and you're a Caniac tried and true. Tell us all about it, Gina. Tell us about yourself.
Okay. Well, let's see. Well, you guys also were my first podcast that I ever followed and started listening to consistently.
Nice.
Wow. Thank you.
Good for you too, I guess.
Yes, it is. It is. I very much enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And I feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I feel like the queen coming in with that introduction. So I feel very special here.
Good. That's what it's about.
Well, let's see. I honestly was not into hockey growing up at all. My family was not. We were more into baseball. My grandpa was a tried and true Braves fan. And then of course the WWF back in the day, wrestling was just it. I mean, Macho Man. I saw Jim Duggan.
A native North Carolinian because that all sounds so familiar to me.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Every Sunday night we would watch it when Sting was in his hot pink and neon green, not the pro look, but that's kind of what we were into. And then I started dating my husband back in 2010 and he was from Pittsburgh. So he was a huge Pens fan. And so my very first hockey game he took me to on one of our first dates was the Pens Hurricanes game. And so that was kind of how I got into hockey.
And now, okay, so I got to ask, there was no pressure. Did he put any pressure on you to select the team that you had to cheer for? If your first game was Pens Hurricanes and you walk in and he's looking at you and you're watching your first game, you're getting ready to enjoy and going in to see a game live while it's happening. That is something that's surreal. Because to have that, well,
Pens Hurricanes, there might have been as many Penguins fans in the crowd.
Yeah. Oh, it was probably, I'd say a 70-30 split of more Penguins fans. I tried to watch it with him on TV, and since I didn't really know anything about it, it was super hard to follow. I was just not into it. We went to that first game and I was automatically hooked. And he didn't, I mean, he bought me a Penguin sweatshirt to wear with him. And so we went into this, I was in my Penguin sweatshirt, we watched it. And so for the first 2 years, we went to all the Penguins Hurricanes games. And then he bought a couple tickets for just other Hurricanes games. And I was immediately just in it. I'm like, let's buy season tickets. We were not even married yet. And I'm like, let's go in and just get season tickets.
That's commitment.
That's commitment, and it's proof of what a great experience the live NHL hockey really is when you go in and you see it, and especially the way it's run in Raleigh. They do a great job in the barn. They do a fantastic job of entertaining everyone.
They do. It was great. And we bought our first season tickets, and that first season was when we were pretty split, and we would wear Hurricane stuff, but those Penguins games, he would still come in his Penguins jersey and I would come in my Hurricanes outfit. And after that first season of us going, he never wears his Penguin stuff anymore. It's full-blown Canes all the time.
Victory. Hey, a conversion. That's fantastic. Yep. Love Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Now, so now you said it was 2010, you said? Is
Yes.
that when you got?
Yeah.
So after 12 years of Hurricane fandom, what's your take? What was your experience for? Because here's the thing, like at 2006, it was the Cup. At 2009, it was the Eastern Conference Final. And then
A lot of nothing.
since then, a lot of nothing.
A lot of
So,
long drives home.
yeah, some difficult years after that. What what kept you around? What was the tie to the Hurricanes?
Well, I think the thing for me was that I had not been a fan. So while other people were so like discouraged and getting so down about the way things were playing, that's when I was just learning the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I was learning the rules, I was kind of looking stuff up online. He was telling me, Tom was telling me all the things that were going on. And so it was still like this really fun experience for me to get to go because I was still learning, when we the games we did win that we were there because I think we started out with like 11 game that first year. It was just the whole experience to me that was just like mind blowing and fun, even if they didn't win. And then it just kind of got to be after that you expected to go in and have like 50 shots on goal and no goals and then still lose to somebody who had 10 shots on goal. So it was just kind of like to see the buildup of the team and then new people come in and then start working together. And just when I started, it not be really great as far as wins and the team stats and stuff, to just go up from there has just been the most amazing ride that I can't understand why everybody does not like hockey.
And I think you exemplify, because you came in, no offense, at like the worst possible time in some people's minds, right? Like at the start of like, this kind of dead zone of 9 straight playoff years. But I think you exemplify what we look for and what we appreciate about Caniacs that people from outside Raleigh don't see, which is die hard, gonna be there through thick and thin fans. Carolina gets a lot of the like, oh, you guys are all bandwagon fans, and like you are an example of somebody who is not, right? Like, no, she was there through 9 straight just not good years, and now it's paying off. But you hung in there, you learned the game, you had fun anyway, and I think you exemplify what it means to be a Caniac in that aspect. That's really cool.
Yeah, we just that second year I told my husband, I'm like, let's get the 22 games. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, I mean, this is kind of like we're really low key. And I was like, this is kind of like our big date nights throughout the year is to just go out, get some, chicken tenders, a pretzel at the game, and just hang out and enjoy it. And ever since then, we've been doing like half season, we've been full season the last couple of years.
That's
Other
so
than winning,
awesome.
what's the biggest change that you think you've seen? It like is it style of play? Is it attitude? Like thinking back over the last 12 years now, like what's changed the most for you? Other than like we're winning now is obviously I think everybody can, but other than that, I mean, is there something else you've noticed? Could be about the arena, the crowds, like the type of people coming in. Is there anything that you've noticed that's really changed over those 12 years?
I think a lot of it is aggressiveness. That's something that I paid attention to over the years is that there was a lot more like I don't want to say heart because people are still in it to play even when things are not going good, but it was just the you could see like almost the internal heart of the team like start being externalized really well. So like all of that desire to win and play good started showing in like, the aggressiveness of the team, looking out for each other if something happened. Um, all the like emphasis they put on the special teams like power play and penalty kill and all that stuff. And it just seemed like the more their heart was coming outside and they started showing like more of their passion for the team and what was happening, the fans got way more involved even before they made their first playoff trip that year. You could see the fans in the stadium get more like into the game and stick around after the game to see what was going on. That they just started becoming more of like a team instead of just out there playing.
That it's one thing that I've noticed and stated a number of times in the past to my friends who don't really know the situation in Raleigh, haven't experienced it themselves. The team and the fans in the building seem to have a really tight relationship. Like when you go to a home game in Carolina, even if there's lots of transplants and fans that are cheering for the opposition, which is, by the way, great. Like if you're a hockey fan, show up. That's part of the environment. Even if you've got, a fan that's, at least being respectful, but cheering for their team while you're there, that's fun. That's cool. What I mean, just a great relationship between the Canes and the fans. And I kind of an on the spot question for you. I think of the example of that relationship a lot with the storm surge. What was your take on the very first storm surge and then the ones that have followed? And now it's a little bit more low key, not anything necessarily scripted, but they're always doing it at the end. Talk about that. What did you think?
So I like it. I love the storm surge. The first time they did it, I was a little confused, didn't know what was going on. But I also, because I've never been to a hockey game outside of PNC and the Hurricanes, so I honestly did not know that that was something that other teams did not do right up front. And so when it became this really big, wide known and the Don Cherry thing going on and the bunch of jerks, I was like, why is it such a big deal? Like, why is this being made into like this mountainous thing? And my husband's like, other like states and, hockey team fandoms and stuff are just like very serious, strict. This is not a game. This is a job. You have to. And I'm like, but the fans to see the fans get into those first few storm surges were amazing, because that's all you saw on any social media was which one was your favorite. Oh my god, this one was so much better than the last one. And the engagement from just that itself was like genius.
What was your favorite? Because I've got a favorite. I don't know about Brad. I've got a favorite. I'll share mine if you share yours.
My favorite, because I'm older, like I'm very old school. I'm a very big video game nerd also. So the duck hunt one was my favorite, just out of all of them.
I love that one.
The duck hunt was fantastic for me because I'm probably the biggest comic book geek you'll ever find. I loved Thor. The Thor hammer smash the center that knocked everyone down. That was positively brilliant. But I got to tell you, there were some other ones that were really great too. But I'm going to let Brad. What was your favorite? Did you have a favorite?
I kind of like. I thought the bowling one was fun, just because I mean it's a bunch of grown men just being silly. It's kind of like our Trocheck slaving hugs and things. It's just grown men able to just be themselves and have fun with the game. I think Gina hit the nail on the head with, here in Boston, like they still chirp about, oh, the storm surge. I can't believe they're doing that and how unprofessional. And hockey should be fun like that. I mean, and the players clearly enjoy it. The players have smiles on their faces. I know some fans are disappointed they're not doing unique ones every game, but 41 home games a year. How many new ideas can you come up with? Is what I think.
Yeah, we're winning a lot of home games.
Yeah, and you're winning a lot of home, and so I think it's a great way for fans to interact. The fact it made Don Cherry upset is icing on the cake for me. So the Hurricanes are trendsetters. It reminds me when we first had the Storm Squad way back in the day, and Dixie. I know she's not listening. Wherever she is, she was like an icon. She was the first non-player icon I think the Hurricanes had, and people, they have cheerleaders in Carolina. And now look around the league. How many teams have, ice girls, clearing the snow off the ice and stuff? Like everybody's doing it. So it's only a matter of time till somebody else copies the surge.
Yeah, I was watching that change over time too. And you go to games in Edmonton and Calgary and seeing it was all different. When the game ended, like the horn sounded, you would stick around just long enough to cheer for the first, second, third stars, whatever. And unless, of course, you got your butt handed to you and then you were out the door before the third period even ended, You know what I mean? And that's just kind of how it went. And everyone would give that final cheer, and then they'd march out and fight their way through traffic. That was kind of it. To have the storm surge, like, for instance, to have a storm surge where former world heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield goes out and pretends to chuck knuckles, and then they drag off the player by his skates. Were they dragging him off? Yeah, I mean, that was just funny through and through. It was fun. It was great. It was entertaining. That's what you want. I mean, that's just kind of going above and beyond. And the connection just got tighter between the fans and the team.
Can I interject just because you said Chuck and Knuckles?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm gonna let Gina answer this one. How about Seth Jarvis standing up for himself against Domi last night, throwing
That
hands?
was brilliant.
Loved it.
I was so excited. We sit in 220 for our seats, and the whole section up there was just like screaming his name. We were so excited.
Well, you know, Domi was gonna and Trip Tracy actually in the game, I was commenting, Domi was gonna try to put one over on the rookie and stuff like that, try to push him around, and Seth Jarvis was having none of it, and I loved it. I mean, and frankly, he needed to. He had to stand up or whatever, or that would go around the league as the button pusher and stuff. Like, Seth Jarvis, you want to get to him, rough him up or whatever, you wipe him right out of the game. And Seth Jarvis, well, that was fantastic.
It was.
I loved everything about that.
So we've been talking for like 15 minutes now, and we haven't talked about Brett Pesce. And
how did that happen?
Erich from Twitter wanted to know, Gina, when did you first become a fan of Pesce, and what is your favorite game memory of him?
So I will tell you, and this is really, really funny too, because my very first Canes jersey that I got was actually an Aho jersey. And so I had 2 Penguins jerseys when we first started coming to the games, and I got an Aho jersey and was wearing it. And I think it was the very end, and I may be wrong because statistics kind of get me sometimes, but I think it was the end of the 2015-2016 season when Brett kind of came in and played a little bit. And Tom, my husband, was like, we're gonna have to watch him. He's low key, he's good. He's very consistent, but he's not like flamboyant or flashy about his playing and his plays. He's like, so we're gonna have to keep an eye on him. And so that next season, because he said that was somebody that I just started like paying really close attention to. And that's when I was really like trying to learn statistics and players and their playing style and all that stuff. And so we would come home and he would be like one of the main people we talked about. And he was like, you see what I was talking about? And we would go back and watch these replays about Brett. And it was right the season after that I actually started talking to his dad on Twitter. And I was like, I bought a Brett Pesce jersey. Yeah. Hey, Mr. Pesce. Which I met him at the game last Friday, and he is absolutely amazing. Like,
he seems like he would be a super cool guy. Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Okay, we got to hear all about that. We got to hear all about that. Anytime you meet one of your favorite players, there's an experience there to be shared. Tell us all about it.
Well, so this was his dad. So his dad was down. And I messaged him, started talking to him on Twitter, like back in 2018, 19, I think. And I was like, hey, I have your son's jersey. And he was like, no way. He's like, there's not that many like huge Brett fans. And I was like, no, I got his jersey. I have like 2 t-shirts now. And so he was like, are you kidding? Awesome. I'm like, no. I'm like, I'm going to be his #1 fan, just joking with his dad, because his dad is super sweet.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of how that came into play. It honestly started as kind of a little bit of a meme between me and his dad on Twitter about how I was such a big Brett fan. But I mean, really we were. And it was funny because everybody kind of associates me and Kaylee with Brett on Twitter and stuff. And everybody's like, how does your husband feel? And I'm like, it's his fault. Like, he's the one who brought him to my attention to begin with.
Oh my God, that's so awesome.
But yeah, Brett's dad was down last week for the games, and me and Kaylee met him on Friday, and it was a lot of fun. His dad is exactly how you would think. Super, super sweet, looks just like Brett. All of those guys look the same, but I mean, just an absolute amazing person right off the bat. You can tell when you meet him.
That's cool. Is there a favorite Brett Pesce memory?
Oh my gosh, let's see. Well, it's kind of funny because it's almost not even hockey related.
It's okay.
Right when we were going into like the COVID shutdown, he had gotten hurt. He had his surgery right when that happened, and they kind of shut everything down. Well, he started streaming on Twitch with some other like NHL players, and I'm really big into like video games, and I watch a lot of Twitch streamers and stuff. And he was one that I just started watching all the time. And he's so funny because he seems really quiet, like on the team. He's not one of the more loud, like rambunctious players. And he's even kind of like that playing video games, but they were playing, I can't remember what they were playing, but he was like so into it that it was really funny. It was like a whole side of Brett that I never even noticed or thought was a thing because he's just not like that in the hockey world. But that's probably some of my favorite memories of him was watching him stream and get so frustrated because he was playing in a tournament with some other people and just hearing him get so vocal and loud about a video game.
That's awesome.
I love to see the human element. I mean, that's kind of, our podcast is about the human element of the fans, right? And I think that'd be awesome to watch.
No question. That'd be absolutely great. And now I understand that I'm looking at our script here and I see there's actually another question.
I'm going to swap the order for a second, Ray.
So, okay.
So Gina just kind of told us like why she bought a Pesce jersey, right? Which is awesome because Ray and I were talking before the show real briefly that we like lunch pail guys. Because he was just telling me he bought a Matt Cullen jersey when he had much more high profile, Canes. I've said many times Kevin Adams is my favorite player. I have a Kevin Adams jersey somewhere in the closet. Brett Pesce for you he's not flashy, he's not a goal scorer, but like he's a guy who consistently. So it's funny to me that the three of us have all bought people who we see as like steady workhorses. But we were kind of asking, I think, the people listening to the show, we'll put a poll up on Twitter, like what takes you from a fan of a person or people, because most of us have multiple people on the team that we love, to somebody who's going to plop down, at least a couple $100, if not $300 or $400 on a jersey to say, like this is my guy.
This is my guy.
I mean,
yeah.
I'm looking at 3 Svechnikov jerseys right now, which is,
yeah,
an investment, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, look, I have a Stahl jersey. I have Hartford Whaler jerseys going all the way back. And I mean, there are people out there that say, hey, man, I love the goaltenders. Goaltenders are like, I'm going to buy goaltender jerseys. That's who I like. And this is my guy or whatever. Right. And there's tons of other reasons why you want to see the guy that's the flashiest player, the goal scorer, the superstar on your team or whatever. There's that aspect to it. And it was right. I go down to Raleigh and the whole experience, I got jibed a little bit by some of my friends when I came back and they saw my jersey and they go, "You went to Raleigh and you bought a Matt Cullen jersey?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, and they're saying, "But Raymond, you love Cam Ward. You won't shut up about Cam Ward. You won't shut up about Eric Cole. You know what I mean? Why did you not get those?" And I'm like, I was there in the moment and I was watching and I got it on the second night and the second game that I was there for. And I just saw it with my own eyes when you're in the building watching the team just breaking it all down. You would see Matt Cullen on the ice, and he never turned it off. He was 110, the cliche 110% the second he hopped over the boards until he came back to sit down on the bench for his short break. And so, I mean, Pesce is again one of those guys too, in my opinion, one of those guys that doesn't take a shift off, which is great. But we've got to throw it out there. Like the drive, you said you got an Aho jersey first. I mean, It's hard to argue with that. I mean,
And no doubt.
I mean, I want an Aho jersey too. I was thinking about it all last night. What jersey do I want next? You know what I mean?
I was going to say,
it's
yeah,
gonna be
Gina, like,
hard.
if you were looking for your next jersey, do you have an idea of is there something that says it's that person, or is it just one of those things where like Ray is like in the heat of the moment, you're like, oh, that's it. It's just it's inspirational.
I don't know, because I just got a black jersey, but it's Pesce.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you know what?
I've got red, white, and black, so I'm with you on I'm the Svechnikov, but the only thing I don't have is the reverse retro.
Well, I have a red one was the first Pesce, then I got a black one, then I got a reverse retro that I'm getting, customized. It's going to be Pesce.
Nice.
So I think, and I have like Pesce shirts, but I have like Slavin on t-shirts. I have Trocheck merch. I love a lot of the Canes, and I don't know. To me, like I was a huge Mrazek fan also, and I liked him because he was a lot. He was kind of like flashy. He was very aggressive a lot, which got him into trouble sometimes. But also, his girlfriend was like, I talked to her on Instagram some, and she's a super, super sweet person, very personable, very nice. And it's kind of like the same thing with Brett's dad. It's those people you kind of get involved with more so outside of hockey, that you start to kind of like love the players and kind of get all excited about what they're doing, and it makes you pay more attention to them while they're on the ice. I think if I were going to get a jersey that was not a Pesce jersey, I don't know. I would have to wait and see. I'm a big Jarvie fan, but I'm also excited to see Drury. Like
Sure.
in the next,
that.
upcoming. So maybe because when he came up, I was really excited to see him in those games he was playing in when everybody was out with COVID. So I don't know. I also kind of want to round out the collection with Pesce, even though I'm very nervous with his contract coming to an end that he may not be here longer.
Yeah, I think he's on the list of people that need to be re-signed for sure.
Well, me
he helps
too,
anchor
but
that D. So, in response to what you said, Ray, somebody posted last night before the game or during the game, there was a Ray Whitney jersey sighting on Twitter. And I'm like, oh, like it's a Ray Whitney
nice.
jersey, like another name that
Nice.
some people will know right away, some people won't. And I wouldn't blame him a bit because it's not one of those, high, one of those, top 2 or 3 guys, but somebody who was always solid for the Hurricanes. So
What a big
very
part
cool.
of the cup run too. He was integral in the cup run in 2006. Ray Whitney, what a great selection there. Yeah, I'd buy that jersey.
Yeah.
If I had to go back in time, I'd buy Ray Whitney's as well. No question.
So,
Go ahead.
So I would say to switch gears. So this question came in from our friend Samantha up in Philly. Hi, Samantha. And this was also kind of Gina's question a little bit. So Samantha wanted to know, how do we feel about the Canes with D'Angelo and Smith injuries and how those are going to play into the games? And Gina, you kind of said the same thing to us, right? Like with with Smith and Tony out, what do we do? The good news is Jalen Chatfield. I would rather have him over Smith if Smith is healthy. I want to look at the stats because Smith and Cole seems to be a really good shutdown pairing. But every time I see Chatfield, I'm impressed, and so I don't think the Canes short term are in a crunch. But Tony's expected to miss a month. I haven't heard anything else on Smith. I mean, he took a bad one to the head. Because Tony, I believe Tony got hurt taking a slap shot. So they're saying 4 weeks, but 4 weeks, and you can, if it's a muscle or something, you can re-aggravate that. Like, I don't think you can assume he will be back ready to go at the playoffs. So I think we've gone from the Canes should make a move on D to the Canes need to make a move on D. Even if Smith and D'Angelo come back 100%, and that's the pairs, those are the guys you want to go with, that's great. But you can't assume that because there are teams like Colorado and Florida, and even maybe, I hate to say the Maple Leafs, but I'm going to say the Maple Leafs, that are any of the 4 of you on a 7-game series can win. And the point of the trade deadline is making sure that you're a little bit better than the other guys. And right now we're not, especially with those 2 guys out. I think I think the Canes have gone, like I said, from needing to make a move, like a low to mid priority, to a high priority. Something should be done going forward. So I don't know who else has an opinion.
I've got something on it, but I'm letting Gina go first. What's your take about the problems with the D, the injuries? Injuries are always an issue.
Yeah, I like Chatfield too. Like when he was playing earlier on, I like him. He's a very physical. He is not scared to ram somebody 100% if he has to, and I like seeing him play. But I just worry because what? And we were walking into the game. We took some friends of ours last night who don't watch a lot of hockey. They like to go, but they don't watch a lot.
Good.
And the girl was like, "Did I see that Shay was out on COVID protocol?" And I had a heart attack. Because I was like, did I miss something? Like, what are we going to do now with it? And Tom was like, no, I think that's old news. Please don't panic her. Because I was about to just freak out before we walked into the arena. And I'm like, what if something happened to one of the other ones? Yeah. Like if something happened to Slavin or Pesce or Shay. And I'm just like, oh no.
Yeah, and I'll echo once again on Chatfield. He was great. So physical and shut down, and even the penalty that he took, you know what? Those things happen, but on the way he was on the play and where the puck was when it started to the point where the penalty was called, he essentially ushered that Blue Jacket out of a scoring effort and was pestering him enough that what could have been an opportunity for a goal was chased right out to the blue line. Like he did a great job of taking down his man, and that stick just got up under the hands a little bit, and that happens every now and again. Ask Aho, ask Svechnikov. I mean, they get called on those too, right? They're doing enough pestering, and sometimes they'll get that hooking call and stuff, and it annoys me. But yeah, he played great, and the whole next man up theory is wonderful, except at some point that well is going to get dry, and is going down to bring up these guys and give them their opportunities. Is that the way to go, or bringing someone in who's proven? I'm looking at Dallas, and I'm looking at Arizona, and like there's a lot of players out there that would fit real well and just give that added depth for the opportunity that when TDA and Smith come back, we're just that much deeper. It's better going into the playoffs to have an embarrassment of wealth in talent than to be looking for the person to step up. It's
Chicago
scarier,
and Tampa reminded us there's no cap in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So if Tony's hurt, and I'm using air quotes, until the playoffs, you can bring somebody in on LTIR.
There you go.
The Wolves are so good. Bringing up Wolves to me, especially one or two guys like Chatfield, is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But they're a lot deeper, I think. We are a lot deeper as an organization at forward. We do have guys who can come in on besides Chatfield on D, but not guys that I necessarily want to see in a Stanley Cup run.
Yeah.
That's the only thing there. Because I would say if you need to bring up, a couple of guys, from the forward pool, Drury and Ozen, great. Like I would be okay with that as a last minute substitution, but I don't think I want to go down that path with defensemen.
I mean, like I said, the next man up has worked so well for us, and you're right, a testament to the embarrassment of riches that we have in this lineup and in this organization is wonderful. But I don't know that you want to test that when you're this close, because I feel we are this close to I mean, we are a cup contender, but to winning it. And there was an interesting stat that was shared last night during the game that this team and now we're actually doing better, had the same record equal to the 2005-2006 run. And anytime you can compare this squad to a Stanley Cup winning team, you're on the right path. You're on the right path. Last week, Brad, you and we spoke about the doldrums of February. the dog days of February.
I think
know.
I think we call them doldrums, but the good news, I think those are behind us, Ray.
Well, we actually said, we looked at the week ahead and we said, we're going to need to win all 4 to come out above 500 in this one. And wouldn't you know it, someone in the organization was listening. Perhaps all the players are listening now, because they provided us exactly that: victories over the Pens, Philly, and Columbus last night. An amazing turnaround. Gina, what was your take on this week's games? What did you think? Did you get a chance to watch them all? I know President's Day, which was Family Day here in Alberta. And here's something. Sorry, I'm all over the place this before the question, but the reason why I'm all over the place is because for some reason, some very thankful reason, television broadcasters in Canada are sharing hurricane games. I often have to go online to find them and stuff like that. But all this week, I saw the Pens were featured, the game against Philly was featured, and last night's game was featured. And I had been begging for the broadcasters to start showing hurricane games because they're going to see great hockey. And apparently they're listening, because I got to see all 3 games, not on the small screen of my phone or whatever. I'm talking on my glorious, humongous TV. I was like, this is fantastic. So so with that out of the way, I'm getting to enjoy it. All Canadians are getting to enjoy it. How did you enjoy the last 3 games?
Well, of course, we were watching the Pens game, so we were very invested in that game.
Oh,
and
that's right.
Yeah, to see that, and to see, some of Pesce and some of our defense shut Crosby down was just, the icing on the cake in that game for me. And President's Day, I was not off. I'm a pharmacist, so we work the majority of holidays, and thankfully
Sure.
I'm not in like a retail setting. I'm more in a closed door setting, but I am kind of like the operations manager in North Carolina for our pharmacy. So I try to be calm. And so this was a 3:00 game in the middle of a work day. I'm on my phone. Like, if any of my work people are listening, don't. But I'm like on my phone with it kind of down, trying to pay attention to what's happening. And most everybody had left for today when we were in overtime. And I think my broadcast was behind a lady that, season ticket holders that we talk to a lot. And then Tom was listening to it on the radio. So it was like the last minute of overtime. And I'm like, well, we're going to go in a shootout. I can't watch that at work. So I was about to cut it off and get in the car and listen to it on the way home. And Tom texted me and he was like, uh-oh. And then the season ticket lady that we kind of hang out with, Louise, she was like, have a shot. And I'm like, oh, we're going to lose. We lost it right here at the end. And because Brett had the puck, and I was like, well, dang, did he give it up? Did he lose it? What is happening? And when he scored the goal, I jumped up and screamed and did a high kick. And my boss and the other pharmacist in the building were looking at me like, what is wrong with her? They are not hockey fans. And so they were like, they jumped up and were like, are you okay? What happened? I was like, I'm fine,
boys.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
That's
Which
awesome.
is funny because most of my family, my nieces and their mom and dad, they have season tickets, and they got into it because we took them to a playoff game with us 2 years ago. But the rest of my family doesn't really pay attention to hockey. Most of my work people do not at all, but they know Brett. That's the only person. They're like, I know Brett Pesce's number 22 and he plays defense. I know nothing else about hockey. But
that's a start.
I mean, they do. Anytime they start seeing his name pop up, they came in the next day because they saw it pop up on social media about Brett scoring that goal, and they started talking to me about it. And I'm like, see?
Yeah, there you go.
Fans have been born of less, let me tell you.
Exactly. Pesce's army, the army of fans for Pesce. Hey, we don't follow hockey, but we know.
We know Brett Pesce.
We know. That's outstanding. That's outstanding. Big game tonight. Just to put a bow on, or sorry, not tonight, tomorrow. To put a bow on the recovery in February to get us over 500. If we're going to get over 500, it needs to come at the expense of the Edmonton Oilers, who are playing tonight. So we're catching them in the second half of back-to-back games, and I will always have a special feeling about the Hurricanes playing the Oilers. Not only did we win the cup over them, I was working in the Oiler radio network when Carolina was defeating the Oilers. And so these games always have extra meaning to me. When you see the talent of Draisaitl and Connor McDavid live, you know what you're dealing with. However, you also know that that's the way you shut them down. And so Pesce, especially because of his duties, are going to have a difficult time when they take on the Edmonton Oilers and Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And so, what's your take on this game coming up? What do you need to see?
Me?
Yeah, sure, Gina. You're a
One
great
of us
fan.
to go first, Gina. I don't want to put you on the spot. Like, I'll so I think I'll step in. We'll give her time to think for a second.
Sure.
Pesce and Slavin, we know what has been the key to shutting down the Oilers, right? You shut down McDavid, you shut down Draisaitl, game over. They've added Evander Kane. I don't think he's been the difference maker, but they are playing with some real enthusiasm you didn't see a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So Pesce and Slavin in particular, I think, are going to have to carry the workload. And Ian Cole, too. I shouldn't leave out Ian Cole, but our true, defensive guys are going to have to work on, McDavid and Draisaitl are the targets. You shut them down, then you deal with everybody else because those two guys can put up points at a pace nobody else in the league can do. So I think this is one of those games where I think the higher the score goes, the more likely it is going to be for Edmonton, just because I just have that gut feeling. Normally, the higher the score goes, I would say the Hurricanes have an advantage, but I'm not sure that's true going into tomorrow's game. The good news is not only are the Oilers playing today at 12:30, but they're playing the Panthers. And we all know the Panthers are no joke. The Panthers are for real, and they are looking to win their own cup this year. So the good news for us is I think the Oilers are going to get every bit of a 60-minute game today. The Hurricanes just need to be ready to start at 1 o'clock, which they did in Columbus, and they did against, was it Pittsburgh? We've said before, like, you can't take that first period off.
No.
I know we didn't score last night in the first, but they were at least there to play. They put up a ton of shots. They kept Columbus outside of the slot. So if they can show up at 1 o'clock tomorrow, I think we have an excellent chance of going, I think, 6-4 for February, which in my mind, after that abysmal start, is fantastic.
Is amazing. Yeah. Like, and for me, the one thing about last night that I noticed, and you said, even though they didn't score in the first, they were quicker to the pucks, and I couldn't decide if it was really, man, that game Columbus played on Thursday night must have took a lot out of them because they don't have any jump or whatever, or if it was Carolina realizes that the best way to keep the puck out of your net is to always be first to the puck and always be attacking. And that's kind of how they played the game.
The Blue Jackets just took it to Florida. They're capable. And they beat us. They're capable.
No question.
I like to think it was the second. Right?
I think it was the second too. It was great. It just that one, I lost count of how many times the defense players like Pesce and Chatfield or whatever were just that one step and were able to just touch the puck out of the reach of a Blue Jacket every now and again. And it didn't have to be a big hit. It didn't have to be anything. It was just winning the race and deflecting that puck away to discombobulate the Blue Jackets. It was great. And they're going to have to do that. The one thing that I fear about the Oilers game is the penalty kill. Our Hurricanes number one in the penalty kill in the league. Fantastic. That's not something that I want to see over and over again tested against a power play that can feature McDavid and Draisaitl. I'm sorry. I just don't want that. I mean, I trust that they'll be able to do the job, but why put yourself into that many situations? I mean, Connor McDavid is always a threat to score. Now take one of the opposition off the ice and put him in the penalty box, and then see what he can do. I mean, he's amazing, and they're fighting for their playoff lives over there too. That's another thing. Now every game seems to have that we're gearing up for the playoffs, or we're in a dogfight for our playoff lives feel. Like there seems to be more intensity in every game.
Anything you want to add, Gina? Gina's smiling at us.
Sorry, I can go rambling off into the distance, and I sometimes I lose me. I gotta.
That's okay.
I
I really meant like you always go no. It's I'm just listening.
That's why
pressure.
we listen to this, is to hear those times that you go off on that, so that we can learn things.
Don't tell my son though, but I have been wrong before. I never would admit that to him, but once in a while,
I didn't hear anything.
That's awesome. So I guess so. Let's see. We've had a chance to talk about the defense and the next man up. We've had a chance to talk about the last few games, the Oilers coming up. You know what? Yeah, I agree with you, Brad. We, as the Hurricanes, had a chance to enjoy a glorious anniversary celebration. And in fact, at last night's game, I know there was one of the features that they talked about was the T-shirts for one David Ayres.
Is it the anniversary of David Ayres this week?
Was it? Was it
this
week?
Know. I haven't been talking about it all week.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't have difficulty celebrating that in the house with my wife, who's a Leafs fan. We won't go there. David Ayres, what was your thought about that game? And especially since you mentioned you were a Mrazek fan, Gina, and to see him skate out and get wiped out.
Oh my gosh.
And injured. And now we've got no goaltenders. Reimer's gone. Mrazek's gone. What now? What happened? What was your take in all this? Take us through the game.
Well, we were watching it. Like every time I saw that replay of Mrazek, that was like a gut punch. It looked so horrible. And I was like, oh my God. And I did not have any idea. This was like a huge learning thing for me, that if you run out of goalies on the road, you have to use their like emergency spare goalie, who is not really a goalie, like NHL goalie or even AHL goalie. And I was like, what are we doing here? What is happening? And I'm on Twitter, and Tom was like, we might as well just cut this off. Like, there's no way. And he's like, no, you need to watch this. He's like, this is something that does not happen, nearly that often at all. He's like, so you've got to watch this and see what happens. And I'm on Twitter seeing people post things like, his health journey, and they're like, oh, he's a Zamboni driver, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And you could just see Rod's face when they were suiting him up to bring him out, that he was like, how is this going to go? What is going to happen? And I was like, this is insane. And to see him get out there, and it was, we wanted to win the game. We needed to win the game. And to me, winning the game was just like absolute icing on the cake for that. Because to see him out there just playing and living this dream was amazing. Like I'm smiling now, but I was out there watching him, just the smile did not leave my face, even in like the chaos and the stress of the game, trying to win it. My smile did not leave my face, because you could just tell he was out there having the time of his life.
I watched that game, and you're right. So, Reimer and Mrazek get hurt. It's a game the Canes really need to win, right? And we're off to a great start. That's the hard part, because you're like it's first period, you're like, I can smell a victory. We're doing great. And then the goalies get hurt, and you're like, oh my gosh. And even experienced fans, longtime fans might say, okay, well, I kind of know what an e-bug is and does, but you said earlier, like, they're not NHL quality, and I would say all of them, but the one that we happen to get, I would agree with you, at least for that game, right? And you're just like, oh my gosh. Like, all you can do is kind of pray that the defense can just keep in front of the shots, right? Block as many shots as possible and hope. And David came in and he gives up, was it 2 on the first 2 shots, right?
I think so,
And
yeah.
you're just like, oh boy. And I'm part of me is feel bad for the Hurricanes. Part of me is feeling bad for me. Part of me is feeling bad for David because I'm like, ouch, you know. And at that point, we kind of knew he had practiced with the Marlies, and you know, so he's a goaltender from at a junior level, which is a far cry from the NHL. And you're just like, okay, get into the period. If anybody can figure this out and get him moving, this team is gonna say, hey, shake it off. We're gonna do this. Just have fun. All the things that came out later, I think, hopefully we all felt that that's the kind of team that we are. And for him to get that win and then turn out to be like the nicest dude, and his wife Sarah is like, I mean, they're super fun, engaging people. They're low key down to earth. I love the fact that he told like Steve Dangle, like, oh yeah, I think I'll take my jersey to practice the next day because he was slated to sub in with the Marlies, and he's gonna take his game worn jersey and his his game puck and stuff. Like all around, like the fact Disney's like making a movie out of this is amazing. There was a great Twitter thread this week about like who should play what players and stuff. There were some great answers. If you're on Twitter, I would look for that. But we couldn't have gotten a better situation. Not just the story, but David himself is just, I mean, a shining example of like what hockey players should be.
I don't think I could say it any better than that. It's amazing. What I'm looking forward to when they do the movie, because I'm sure just you both, just like me, have all had a chance to see that replay of the response when he comes into the locker room after the game, right? And the celebration and all the rest of that. That's so exciting. It's so awesome. It's great for him. What Rod had a chance to say specifically after the game, like I loved everything about that. What I would really look forward to was the reaction, like you said, at the end of that period after he's allowed 2 goals. Take us into the locker room there. Who said what to whom? How was the attitude? What were the players thinking? I mean, it's safe to say that they were all very super supportive, and they were all saying, hey, don't worry, we'll get you through this. It's going to be okay, and we'll step up our game. I mean, that's certainly what you would expect, but I would love to see that interaction.
Absolutely.
And what that will be. Yeah.
On a personal level, I don't know much about the production. I haven't heard a lot. I'm hoping that the NHL is on board and they can actually talk, Maple Leafs versus Hurricanes, because that would be huge for the Hurricanes.
No question.
Miracle, Disney's version of Miracle, right? The story of the 1980 Olympic team is one of the best hockey movies out there. I was really worried before it came out, and when I saw it, I'm like, they did justice to a monumental event, but it was also entertaining. Like the camera angles they used and stuff to actually make the hockey come alive felt great. If the David Ayres movie gets the same treatment, oh, I'm so looking forward. If they can do the same type of, give you the same kind of feelings as they did with Miracle, oh, that movie's going to be a treat.
It's going to be great. The story is great, and it's one that is going to do very well for itself in the box office. I guarantee that, because remember, this was you touched on it. It was Hurricanes versus the Leafs, but it was Hurricanes versus the Leafs hockey night in Canada Saturday night, and I cannot accurately express to you how big that spotlight is on those nights. Hockey night in Canada, Saturday nights, has been an institution for decades, where entire country kind of shuts down and huddles around the TV when you only had 2 channels to watch. And one of them was CBC's Hockey Night in Canada. Like that was it. So the spotlight was there and everyone's watching. Everyone is going to want to see this. Like it's going to be great, and it's going to do very well at the box office. And like I said, as long as the NHL's on board, the Hurricanes into the spotlight, and him in the spotlight, and appropriately so for what he did to get us that win, that's going to be remembered forever.
I
Like
have to say,
forever.
that is the game, and it's a little self-serving, I guess. That's the game that softened me up on Leafs fans a little bit because they've been so obnoxious. Sorry, Leaf Nation, but overall quite obnoxious.
They certainly
But
can
that
be.
game, the standing O in Toronto for David Ayres, who just beat them, was I got to give them all. I've definitely softened on them as a fan base because of their reaction to that moment. You know, some of it, the further they go, it's almost like Red Sox fans. Like the further they get away, or Cubs fans, the further you get away from the championship, you know, people start to give you a little more, okay, like, a little more patting on the head, a little more patronizing maybe. But I definitely, that in my mind, I know it's made me kind of soft up and go, it's like the Edmonton fans when they came down in 06. Great group of people, never met a nicer group of other teams' fans coming into our barn. And that stuck with me for 2 years. Like, I don't dislike the Leafs in the way that I did before that game. So
Well, they recognized how big that was, and the Leafs were a great team that season too.
yeah.
So for him to to come through with the win, that's not easy. You know what I mean? It's not like we put up a shooter tutor over the net or whatever. I mean, like it was serious. He was great. He was great. I loved it.
I'm laughing that you said shooter tutor.
Well, that's exactly what, for some people, when you see both goaltenders go down, right? You see both goaltenders go down. If you don't know about the e-bug, you go, what the heck do they do? Do they, strap the goalie pads on Pesce and tell him to go in net and do his thing? Or what, like, what do they do? Do they put up the shooter tutor that we've all lived with?
What is it, a Walmart or somebody who volunteered to go in?
I believe so.
I think it was Walmart. I was like, no.
No.
Get a real
Like,
goalie.
I mean, yeah, get a real goalie. So, and it happens so rarely. That's what makes this it's so unique, right? That's what makes it so unique. It doesn't happen very often. It just actually happened just very recently, like a couple weeks back. It wasn't Chicago. I can't remember who did, but they had the same sort of thing where they needed to go to that emergency backup to come fill in. And it's funny, most teams with that emergency goaltender in, you see the pressure on everyone else step up even further, where they say, okay, now we're really protecting our goaltender. Now we're going to have that much more jump in our step. And even though the Leafs scored those first two shots, the game wasn't going to be easy from there on in. It just wasn't. And the Hurricanes stepped up in such a big way. I can't wait. David Ayres, I'd love the opportunity to meet him. I think it would be great. And to see him have that success, and he'll be a famous Hurricane for the rest of his days in one,
absolutely,
not even a full game, 40 minutes of hockey makes him a hero in Raleigh. And I love it. I love everything about it.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic.
So one thing to touch on before we wrap up, Ray, and this is something you and I talked about, should we or shouldn't we, but some things are just important. Alexander Ovechkin was finally asked about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. As I think many people already know, he appears to be I don't know if friend is the right word, but ally of Vladimir Putin. He did come out and say, please, no more war. It doesn't matter who's in the war. Russia, Ukraine, different countries. I think we live in a world like we have to live in peace in a great world. It's a hard situation. I have family back in Russia, and it's scary moments. Probably the most commented on, retweeted thing that we've put out on Twitter was a comment the other day that said, regardless of what the Russian athletes say, if they get asked, don't take their words necessarily at face value because we don't know what's going on back home, and they do have families and things. I think Alex gave us way more than I expected by saying to put an end to this. And he admitted right there, I have family back in Russia. We don't know the situation. That is still a place where you can be arrested for disagreeing with the leadership of the country, right? We in America, we get so used to protesting big things, small things, things that really don't matter. because we can. And they don't come from a country like that. I haven't seen a comment from Svechnikov. Not that I hope he hasn't asked, but why put him in a situation where he can't probably say his, speak his mind. He can't necessarily go too far the other way. It's a no-win. But I thought that was brave of Alex Ovechkin to at least say what he said. I don't know all the details of his history with Putin, but I thought that even saying that was more than I expected from him. So good on Alex for that.
I would tend to agree. And I think, look, the spotlight was shone on him specifically in the NHL because of the avatar that he has, which features him prominently right alongside Vladimir Putin.
Yeah. And he had a website to raise contributions for Putin.
Yeah.
Several years ago. But
so again, all of these questions then come down on him. And he's in a very precarious situation there because how much can you say with your entire family there? And
I think I read it's not like extended family. I think right now, he said that his wife is back in Russia currently. So it's not like this is grandma and grandpa or third cousin
twice removed. Yeah, no,
it's immediate family.
It's immediate family. And I think he in yesterday's comments, the one statement which kind of stood out for me is I'm an athlete, not a politician. And I think that's important. That was important for some people to remember. We all have opinions and stuff like that. But aside from the fact that, he's got that avatar and supported Putin in the past, why in the world would you care necessarily what Ovechkin thinks when he, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to press him, why do you care? And it's, it was a tough spot for him to be in. I did not envy him. They were all reasonable questions. They all seemed reasonable. I wondered before this whole issue even came out, I wondered personally, what would be the reaction of the press? What would be the reaction of the players from Russia? Svechnikov came immediately to mind. What does Svech think of all of this? Do I care what he thinks of all it? It's safe to assume that no one wants war. You know what I mean? So you would expect that standard response. But how does it affect him personally? I mean, it's a very precarious situation.
It reminds me of Charles Barkley, who said, I'm not a role model. It's like, well, you are in some ways, but in my opinion, if parents are doing their jobs, that's role model number one, right?
Yeah.
Athletes you can take from them, but like with my son's a little too young to know about all this. But if he was older, we would have a discussion about what he said and all. Gina, if you want to chime in, please do. I'm never going to put a guest on the spot for like a strictly political, non-hockey. So if you want to, just give me a wave. I'll let you chime in. But don't feel like you are obligated to say anything either way, just because I don't want you to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, certainly that's not what we want to do here for you. Like you have a voice or choose not to. That's fine.
This whole situation. So the first thing that I thought of when people were talking about Ovechkin and Svech and, wanting a statement from them is I am a very empathetic person. I try to make everybody smile, everybody feel happy, wanted. And that's just kind of like who I am as a person. And my first thought goes directly to the person. So we're sitting, myself over here in North Carolina on my couch, not hearing things explode around me and not being, first person directly involved in the situation. And my first thought is we're sitting over here asking Ovechkin or asking Svech to speak out against this, not knowing their situation over there, what might happen if they say the right thing or the wrong thing. And everybody has an opinion on what they want them to say. You want them to say these words. And if they don't say these words or agree with you on these words, then they're a bad person. They're on the wrong side of the fence. They're not for humanity. And I can't imagine trying to just strictly be in a foreign country doing my job and trying to focus on what I'm getting paid to do, what I'm supposed to be doing, while I'm also worried about my family, my friends, people I grew up with. my country. That's got to be in the forefront of your mind while doing your job, while also trying to be politically correct in another country and have people looking at you here like, why are you not saying this? Why are you not saying these specific words? And so while everybody is mentally going through this and, emotionally trying to deal with what's happening, these players that are over here with us that are from Russia and that have ties to all this, I cannot imagine the stress that they're going through right now because, you're trying to appease your country. You're trying to keep your family safe. You're trying to appease your job and the country that you're in now and the fans that you have out here. And to me, it just seems like a no-win situation for them. Like my heart goes out to them, especially because I'm like, what are you going to say that's going to make everybody happy?
And I don't know that you said it directly, but you said it indirectly, which is not only is he in a foreign country, but this is, English isn't his first language. Yeah. And as good as his English is, with something this important, nuance can be a big deal, right? And
you don't want a lost in translation situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like finding the right word. I mean, I think he did admirably given the situation he was in. I hope that's the way he really feels. That is a whole nother discussion for a whole different podcast.
It was the one thing the one thing that I will just add to that. First of all, Gina, let me just say you put such a fine point on that. Like honestly, just to bring it to a head and bring those issues and pressures to the forefront like that, that was perfectly stated. One of the things that I just wanted to add is that I think the pressure got even greater on these fans when you see things like the Russian Grand Prix has been canceled and moved out. When Jokerit from Finland, who played in the KHL, they moved their entire team out of that. We're not playing in Russia now. Like they just pulled out. Like where you see all of these major things happen. Soccer teams not going into Russia to play. For I believe it's the Champions League games, no longer going in. They're just refusing. So you see all of these big, grandiose things that teams are able to do, where organizations as a power group are able to do. It's much, much harder to speak out as an individual player.
We went through a lot of stuff today.
We did, didn't we?
Ray? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, if there was one thing that we didn't touch on, it was a huge shout out to Freddie last night. Not only did he get the shutout last night, just to bring it back to the Hurricanes, he got the big shutout. He is now ahead of Vasilevsky in number of wins, who is one of his main competitions for the Vezina trophy, which I will say he still isn't, from the outside looking in, and a lot of responses from the media, he's still not really accurately being included in the candidates for the Vezina. A lot of people look to Shesterkin, and a lot of people, of course, Vasilevsky. There's all of this focus in other areas, and Freddie Andersen isn't getting the shine. If Andersen played in New York,
he would be the front runner.
Oh, there's no question.
If he did this in Toronto, he'd be the front runner.
Yeah, he's in a small market, right, where we don't have as much noise, don't have as much bluster, don't have as much media. That's just the way it is. And so he's quietly doing his job, and maybe that's the way he prefers it. The Great Dane seems like that kind of guy. I've seen the interviews with him. He's not particularly boisterous, like you have said in the past, Gina, and that's just fine. He loves to do his job, and I certainly appreciates the defense lineup that he has in front of him. Even when we're short players, he sees that next man up, and he's got a D in front of him that's willing to work hard. And again, those people that chirped me, Brad, last week, the ones that chirped me and say, "Oh, how do you like Freddie now that he's given up a bad goal that cost the Canes a game? How do you like him now?" I'm like, guys, I saw so many bloody saves that were just never mind. Stop chirping me. Worry about your own stuff there, Leafs fans, because you've got some issues yet too.
Soupy and Razik, a little shaky there, Leaf fans.
Yeah, we're pretty happy with Freddie and Ronta here. So Mr. Andersen's doing a great job, and we got more proof of that last night, even on a very quiet night. You know what I mean? He did not see a lot of shots. After 2 periods, he only had 9 shots on net. I mean, could have been back there having a cup of coffee and just, no, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault. But look, when Columbus started to turn it up, there was that 6-minute period in the third. There was about 6-7 minutes where Columbus found their game and started really putting the pressure on, and he was there, steady, making big saves. He kept it at 0-0 with like stopping that partial breakaway there. I mean, he was great. Why he's not more to the forefront for the Vezina discussion, I am not sure. Outside of the media thing, but he certainly deserves his props because, man, I'm happy to have him, Mr. Andersen.
You said it.
Yeah. I can't think of anything else though. Gina, do you have anything else that you want to add to the program? This is your show. You're our guest. Do you have anything else?
No, just thank you guys for having me on. This has been so much fun.
Thanks for coming.
I've enjoyed this.
We always have a blast.
Then, and if that's the case, Brad, there's really only one thing left to say.
Ready for Vezina? Or go
that,
Canes. Go Canes.
That, and go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.